We are back with another edition of Smart Driving Cars. Thank you for spending time with us. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University and co-author of the new book, The Real Case for Driverless Mobility. Still plugging. Alan
Thank you.
Kornhauser. Hi, Alan.
Hi, everybody.
And joining us is your co-author and publisher of The Dispatcher from Sweden, Michael Senna. Hi, Michael.
Great to be here again.
Terrific. Spring in Sweden. Is it warm yet?
It arrived. Yeah, well, we're about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's not bad.
Well, and in Princeton, it is a marvelous day. Absolutely marvelous. What am I doing in here? I want to go outside, play golf.
Got to grade papers, right? So
yeah, I have to grade my exam. I know.
Before we dive into the latest edition of The Dispatcher, we want to remind everyone that we published a special edition of the podcast this week with Marcus Price, Chief of the Visibility and Injury Prevention Division at NHTSA. A very worthwhile discussion for everyone to check out on the just announced automatic emergency braking system rules that will be required in new cars sold in the U.S. by September of 2029. Alan, lots of questions posed and for the most part answered.
Yeah, and I think it's refreshing, one, that really NHTSA has done something here. And we had the preliminary last year, and of course there's some legislation that goes back and supports all this stuff. So it's been years in the making, but it's finally baked. And the most interesting thing about it, from my point of view, is that NHTSA is not asking the industry to do something that's impossible here, because as was pointed out very clearly to all of us, a car that can be bought in the showroom already can do everything that this rule requires, meets the regulations. So that car doesn't have to wait till 2029 or whatever. It's available now in the showroom. And I guess our wonderful surprise, it's not on a luxury car that is beyond everybody's reach. It's in a Toyota
Corolla, right?
Toyota Corolla. Oh my goodness! And I guess we were going to look up on the web. I haven't looked up on the web. I mean, how much does Toyota charge for this, or is it part of the existing equipment? Whatever. So the point of this is not some great reach by the public sector to somehow bring down the automotive industry, but in fact is very doable. And my expectation is if Toyota handles this right, and Wall Street and Madison Avenue does it right, everybody's going to want to try to catch up to Toyota on this, because why would anyone want to buy a car that just has crash mitigation with respect to the potential rear end collision, as opposed to crash avoidance? I mean, do you realize how different
what they're
it is?
saying is this can work at highway speeds, basically, that it will prevent you.
I don't know, highways 80 kilometers an hour. I mean, I don't know, if you're Autobahn type person, that's a do, you gotta do. But I mean, this is not the 12 or 25 mile an hour stuff that Zuby was talking about a couple of summits ago, where cars were going through stopped objects like nothing at 12 miles. This is to 80 kilometers an hour. So this requirement, as well as the existence of a vehicle in showrooms that a lot of people can afford, is available now. That basically is not gonna. It's not gonna. I mean, do you know the difference between this, just a little crash, and not doing it? It's enormous. You don't have to deal with talking to the person you hit, the police, the ambulance, the insurance, Didn't happen. The brakes did what they were supposed to do. I mean, I just think it's probably the most wonderful thing that's happened to this technology. And well, since the electronic stability control in 2012, which kept me from losing my rear end if I went around too fast around the corner. Thank you.
Michael, we'll let you chime in here. Yeah.
We have two Toyotas. They're not Corollas. They're one's a hybrid SUV, RAV4, and the other one's a gasoline RAV4. The 2015 has cruise control, but it's not automatic cruise control. So I set it, and if I'm approaching a car, it doesn't slow down. With the 2023 RAV4 with automated assisted cruise control, I'm constantly getting my speed controlled by the car in front of me, and I've learned over the last year that since we had the car, that I need to get into the other lane before I start to slow down. If I'm going to pass the car, if I wait too long, my car slows down to the point where all of the left lane cruisers are now passing me by, and then I've got to wait in order to get in. But there are situations that I go between each one of these. Today I drove the 2015. Yesterday I drove the 2023. So I'm adapting. I have to adapt myself in the way that I drive the car, because in some cases I'm in the left lane well before I should be, in order to not slow down. Or with my car, I can get right up to the car and then I can move into the next lane. It takes some control, and it takes some basic education on your own part. But there are situations when I'm in the assisted cruise, when somebody suddenly comes in front of me, they pull in front of me, and I'm in a, let's say, 120 or 110 kilometers an hour, 60, 65 miles an hour, and they're going at 30, and my car almost comes to a dead stop. It doesn't come, because the car is moving. It slows down and it gets to the point of its speed. But if that car stopped, I'm not sure what my car would do, whether it would actually stop as well, or it would keep on going at 5 or 10 kilometers an hour. And I'm not going to test it. I'm not sure it is. So getting from that point to zero isn't a big deal, and all of these car companies can do it. And I know why they haven't done it. You know why they haven't done it, but we both agree that it should be done. And now it's going to be done with this by 2029, which seems to me an awfully long way in the distance. The only question that I have, and I have to take the time now to listen to the podcast, I want to hear where the requirements came from. Did they come from UNECE? Are they something that will be put into the type approval processes that exist in Europe, primarily the EU, but also other countries in Europe, Japan, Korea? Or did NHTSA make them up themselves within, I don't know, some group, SAE possibly, and they're in FMVSS, but they aren't getting promulgated into the UNECE and then type approval? That's what I'd like to know. But great that it's finally going somewhere.
Yeah, well, Michael, I think that's a good question you asked. Look, I just started to read the report, and of course, I don't know.
Mhm.
And one hopes that it is for more than just the USA on this thing. Okay, that it really can stimulate the rest of the world. What I found interesting in our discussion, because I of course asked, to what extent can somebody turn this on and turn this off? And I think I heard him say, this is not turn offable. This is on all the time. Okay. And it is automatic emergency braking of a stationary object or moving object ahead only to 80 kilometers an hour, but it's at least to 80 kilometers an hour. It's not just to, 40 or whatever the previous one was, and it interleaves with the intelligent cruise control. And he specifically said that if you don't brake hard enough with the intelligent cruise control and whatever is happening in front of you, the automatic emergency braking system kicks in and intervenes. Now, is it going to stop all the rear end crashes? Of course not. Okay, there are still people that will cut in front of you, and F equals MA doesn't do it. Okay, I mean, whatever. So that can still happen, but they have a lot of data in the report that shows what percentage of the crashes this appeals to, and he gave a number as to the number of lives they expect to be saved by this, as well as crashes. And the interesting thing that needs to be noted with the lives that they deserve the credit for the lives that need to be saved, it's not over what would exist today. It's what's over what one could reasonably expect the industry to by itself introduce this technology. Through their regulation, they're accelerating that process, and they're only taking the credit for this, for accelerating it, not really, promulgating totally from what exists today. So they actually, discount, to me, in some sense, discounted the value that they're delivering here, and it's impressive, and to me, it's only partially impressive of the lives saved, because most of those, I mean, they're people just misbehaving out there and doing things they shouldn't be doing that causes most of that havoc. But at least that's my belief. But all the number of just crashes that are just a pain in the butt, and I can't imagine that the insurance industry can't look at this and say, oh my, in dealing with these, just the fender bender stuff, and it's 5 miles an hour, but it took out the radar, the lidar, the doodar, the badoodar, and all of a sudden, you've got to throw the car away, because and it's those guys that I think come off the table, or off the liability spectrum, and should allow the insurance companies to, unfortunately, reduce their top line, because they'll reduce their insurance rates. But guess what? They'll increase their bottom line. And what should insurance be interested in? Top line or bottom line? I don't know. Of course, they want both. But come on. Bottom line is what one's interested in. Who cares about the top line? Cut it out, guys. I don't know. You can tell I'm not an insurance CEO. Boy, would I like to be. We've had this discussion before, haven't we?
We've had this discussion before. Yes, I can refer you to the article in the Dispatcher.
Yeah, no, I mean, but this is a great opportunity. I think there's so many wins on this thing. I'm just elated by it personally. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Dispatcher, let's turn to the May edition, and the lead, Michael, is the business of safe car design, and your motivation was the tragic death of Angela Chao.
Yes. I'm rather surprised that there hasn't been any, that I've seen, any follow-up, any articles, anything that's been written about this, providing more detail about why it took 2 hours to get this woman out of the car. And I think I've used as many of the facts, or all of the facts that have been available to describe what's happened. But I took a different turn on this. My main point in this article is not to criticize the person who was driving this car for being over the alcohol limit, and possibly not doing what she should have been doing with the car. And it's certainly not giving any blame or assigning any blame to the car company for her not being able to get out of the car. There can be some blame attached to how she ended up in the water in the first place, but I don't even want to discuss that. The issue here, from my standpoint, is that in this case NHTSA, but with the full extent of the car industry, have made windows impossible to break. Number one, on the inside, particularly on the inside, but also on the outside, for two reasons. One, the rules were changed to prevent people from going through side windows as well as going through windshields, so that laminated glass is almost a requirement. It's not in Europe. It's only in Europe. It's in the windshield, but not in the side windows. But the side windows, to prevent people going through the windows on the side. And this also has the requirement for the side impact airbags. The other reason for the laminated glass is to prevent people from breaking the glass on the outside for carjacking. So now you have an impenetrable surface. You need a special tool, and that's why it took so long to get her out of the car. You need a special tool to break through that glass. She could have, if those 8 minutes when she was on the phone with someone who should have said, open the door. There's a switch, there's a lever there. Open the door. Try to open, even if it's only a small thing, you try to force it through and get out of the car. You know, the car is going to fill up with water. You're going to drown inside of it unless you get out of there. When she went into the water, the car was clearly not filled with water because she was on the telephone for 8 minutes inside the car with the window up and the door locked. She could have unlocked. At that point, it would have been much easier for her to unlock and open the door because the car was floating, from what I understand. She could have, at that point in time, pushed the button and got the window to open, because the window now at this point in time was above the water, and gotten out of the car. So my main point in writing this is that we authorities have done a great job in this case of making it difficult to break in and to prevent people from going out in the case of an accident. But 400 people in the United States die from cars that go into the water and people are not able to get out of them. We don't know how many of those were suicides. That is, I drove my car into the water because I knew I would eventually drown, or it was an accident and I don't know what to do. So we need more education for people to what should be done when you go into the water. On Monday, when I sent out the dispatcher, on the news, within minutes after I sent the dispatcher out, there was an announcement in the news that a couple in their 70s, the day before, so I sent it out very early, the day before, a couple in their 70s had driven their Mercedes it was an estate. They drove it onto a ferry. They were first on while the ferry was still being loaded, cars coming in. Their car had stopped. They were in front of the gate. Suddenly, and this is reported by someone who was in a car right next to them, the car accelerated through the gate, went out on one of these ramps, the things that go down to let your car go off. It was slightly up because they're coming in from the back. It went out onto this ramp, flew up into the air, and went into the water, and they disappeared. This is about 20 feet of water. It took them an hour to get people there, divers to get there, in order to get people out of the water. Another example, they could have, at the point the car was going in, if they were thinking as the car was going down, the electricity is still on, the car went the car was on, the motor was running, to put the windows down and float out and get out of that car. Now with Chao, she was in less than 10 feet of water. They were standing on top of the car with a pole trying to break the window, which they couldn't do because it was double pane laminated glass. They couldn't break it. So they had a special tool that when they finally got there with the divers, had a special tool. But by that time, almost 2 hours later, she had already expired. So that's what the article is about.
And you had some closing thoughts in this article too,
Yeah,
pertaining to alcohol locks.
Well, let me jump in
Go
just a little bit on that first. I mean, I think I commented on this incident also, and of course I commented at an additional way to what Michael is saying, because what Michael is saying is, of course, I mean, absolutely necessary. I don't know how many times I've put a car in the wrong gear, and I haven't had anything to drink. It is, from a 3 on the column to a 5 on the floor to my push button whatever. Just did it a couple of days ago at home. I actually took my Mercedes and just ended up just nudging the garbage cans because put it in forward instead of reverse. I mean, and okay, so I've lost my brains. Now that these cars have cameras on them, why? And the throttle or the brake are not directly mechanically connected to the, whatever calipers or throttle. Geez, if the darn thing's in reverse and the gas is hit, but the car shouldn't be going in reverse, why does the car go in reverse? The car should, I mean, aren't the brains of this thing? I mean, we have AI this, AI that, this, that. You mean, come on. This is from a standing position.
Yeah, I didn't take that point.
I know you didn't. I add that point to it.
I agree. It's a great point. Yeah.
My goodness, we don't even have this problem. And it should be
good.
if you can't do that, you're not going to meet these NHTSA things. You shouldn't be in business.
I agree.
Okay, I mean, come on, and that's both with the front and the back.
Yeah.
And my goodness, if I slam on something, and I know I'm old and senile, I might have slammed on the wrong thingy down there.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And don't implement that when you know that, holy hell, I must be a goofball.
Yeah.
Please, that should be so trivial.
I agree. I'm not going to add it to this issue, but we'll pick it up later.
Yeah,
Fred was going in a different direction, and I think yes. My point, my main point, and I said I left this to the last. There is no reason why that person who died in her car should have even been able to turn on the motor. We have the tools, and it doesn't require cameras, and it doesn't require any sensors. It requires a very simple tool that works. All of the taxi drivers and all of the bus drivers in Sweden, all the taxi drivers in Sweden for real taxi companies have to take a breathalyzer test before they can turn on the car. And every single person should have to do that. Now, if she and everybody else had to do that, there are tens of thousands of people who drive cars, but also many, many more who are the victims of drunk driving, who would be alive today. And this is something that I've never been able to understand and will not understand and will not accept. We need to have alcohol locks on cars that work.
Yeah, but that's because you're, I don't know, a communist or something that you want to put on all these constraints into our freedom to use our car whenever we want to.
I've been called a lot of bad things, but
I don't. But you know,
You can call me a
the
liberal, but
okay,
you can't call me
I'll
a
call you
communist. You
well,
can't call me a
what,
socialist or a
what's the matter?
communist,
A liberal
but you
is a
can
no,
call me.
no,
You
no,
can,
I'm
it,
a Marxist, so you
yeah,
know, whatever. But we know what the problem is. The car companies have always been selling us a dream, and if somehow they put something on there that ruins that dream, we're not going to buy it. And so therefore, you know, they don't. The poor car companies can't put it because they won't have any customers.
but
It's got to
there is
be
a
the government.
law.
The government has to come in there and basically say no.
It has. The
Unfortunately,
government has done that. The question is going to
well,
be
just in places where the vote doesn't count, in
no,
places like
no,
America where the
no,
vote counts,
no,
they
no.
no.
Ellen, it's in the law. The law that's there says alcohol locks have to be put into place. Now, if we do what we did, and this is also part of the reason for writing this article, if we do what we did in 2016 and we allow NHTSA to go for 4 years and plus without having a director, and by the way, the person who was responsible for that was the sister of the person who died in the Tesla. Okay, if we do that, if as a country we allow that to happen again, then I guess we deserve to have what happens to us. The law says that's been put into place. You have to put alcohol locks in your cars. Now, where it is right now is it's not in committee. It's in study. It's in analysis. But it says it has to be in place. Now, let's hope. Like it may be hope against hope, but let's hope that that law is passed. That's my hope.
Yes, you know, and of course, Michael, and we're in absolute complete agreement, and we're all frustrated by this. But it really is the public sector has to put the constraints on there. And my goodness, the forces against that constraint are just so enormous. The political forces, you know, Elaine Chao, the reason that she didn't have, you know, a NHTSA administrator is because she couldn't get the NHTSA administrator past this to get Senate approval. And you know, and it's a mess down there in Washington, and we all know that it's a mess, and and nobody's behaving properly, and it really should be that so easy. But unfortunately, the reality of the alcohol problem is that I think that the folks that have problems with alcohol are throughout the economic spectrum. They're not only poor people, they're also rich and influential people. And because they are, man, that makes the political aspect of getting enough votes to make this happen or having enough backroom things to make it happen just enormously challenging. If it was only poor people, I guess you know, the rich people would have made it, the powerful people would have made it happen long ago. But maybe some of those folks want to be able to drive their cars from when and I guess if we just look at that, you know, DUIs or deaths by alcohol statistics, I think they're equally distributed proportionally through the economic spectrum. This is a tough one to do. This is And the problem also is that if you do that, then what appears on the dark web, the light web, the every web is, oh, hey, all you need to do is hang a Coke can from this and so on, and you can get around it. Oh my goodness, if you stand on your head, spit nickels, and clip this thing, you know, it disengages it and you're in. I mean, can you imagine? Oh, I mean, that's, you know, not, that is a sociological problem associated here, and those are always tough, aren't they? Or I don't know. The answer is easy. It should be, but we're dealing with humans, and man, they're tough. I guess, you know, I'm not making excuses for it. Look,
Well, moving along,
Well,
in the,
yeah, I guess I do have to admit this. I think when I was like 15 years old, we used to go down 322 with six packs. I'm lucky I survived.
you speak for a lot of us, Alan. So,
I mean, it's crazy out there. And thank goodness I survived. I probably shouldn't have survived. But and it's just so ugly. And it's not just the alcohol, it's also the other things that people take and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
I
Yep.
mean, we really have to we have to both get serious about paying attention when we drive and putting as damn much technology in these things so in case we're not, it doesn't go hurt the rest of us. To me, it's you've got to do both. I mean, I think you still have to do both things, and we'll talk about this in the summit, I'm sure. I mean, this is hard. If it wasn't hard, we'd have it.
Well, as long as people are electing congressmen or senators who to act like Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example.
Jesus, I mean,
I don't say the other guy's name, but then we'll have problems. We've gotten to a point. I thought we had gotten to a point where we had a political system in the United States that was reasonable, where people could talk to each other and they could come to conclusions and make decisions that were in the best interests of everyone. But something happened along the way, and I'm not naive enough. I'm not that naive. Maybe people think that I'm naive. I'm not that naive to not understand why these things happen. I mean, I grew up in a place where, you know, you either defended yourself or you got beat up. We didn't have mobbing at that point. When I was growing up, you had people who were strong and people who were weak, and that's the way it worked. And it's gotten to a point at least in the United States and some other places as well in Europe, where it's people are able to make decisions that you don't want to have made for you. And it's the other side as well. The other side is saying, I don't want people to tell me whether I can drive my car when I'm drunk. I don't want people telling me that I can't carry a gun. So I'm going into neighborhoods where I don't feel safe. I want to have a gun. I understand that, but in civil society, in societies where we have to be careful about what happens to other people, not just to ourselves, we've got to deal with that. Somehow we've lost the ability, at least in the United States, I think, to do that. I don't want to go there because the more I talk about this, the worse it's going to get. So let's go on to the next issue on the dispatcher.
Yeah.
and that's the dispatch
Yeah,
central.
I'll let it
Yeah.
go too, because certainly, I grew up in somewhat the same surroundings you grew up in. I think Fred grew up in similar surroundings and so on and whatever. And I guess I can't call myself a silver spooner. I mean, I came off a boat through Ellis Island, so cut it out, but yeah, uh, just a glimmer of happiness. I mean, we might have a Speaker of the House that is at least, I mean, has backed off of his, being completely on the one side, and at least, almost rational. So
Yeah.
whatever. And what can we do? I mean, I hope my one vote counts, but I doubt it.
Yeah. I'm going to quickly go to the other issue,
Yes,
which
please.
is
Right.
also that's also a political issue. And by the way, that for some reason, this issue within the last couple of days has gotten some comments which normally the dispatcher doesn't get, from people who say, yeah, I really agree with your points, the points that you made, particularly the political points. And this issue with a ship going into a bridge and destroying that bridge, yes, you can say it's the fault of the pilot. You can say it's the fault of the company who owns the ship. And I say no, it's the fault of the people who allowed the politicians who were responsible for the design and the building of that bridge to twice make a decision not to protect the piers. Twice they made the decision. First, when it was built, and second, when they did a review after 2001 and said, nope, we're not going, it's too expensive. We're not going to put guards around those piles. They're the ones who are responsible. The people who voted for the people who made that decision. And that's the kind of thing that we need to, I think we need to be more clear about. We're the ones who put the people in the positions that they are in to do what they're doing, like the politician from Georgia and other politicians who don't approve people to be heads of NHTSA and don't vote for alcohol locks. It's our responsibility. And we need to take that responsibility. And I don't think we're doing it.
I of course agree with you completely on that, Michael. I also took a slightly different take on that. What I wanted to do was applaud how much right went well during that incident, which could have been enormously more devastating than it was. That a Mayday, I mean, a Mayday signal was sent. My goodness, it would have been terrible if it wasn't. It was listened to. My goodness, it would have been terrible if it wasn't.
I mean, at 1:30 in the morning, at 1:30 in the morning, there just happened to be not that many cars as there would have been at 9 o'clock or 8:30 or 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, no, but no, I think even more than that, those warnings were heeded. At least two policemen heard them. Two policemen said, hey, stop going on there in time to keep the flow of traffic, even if it would have been small. I mean, if you watch those the images, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 9 minutes before, there are all these tractor trailers going off there, over that spot. And my goodness, when it happened, none went into the brink.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and that's because, at least those people did right. Now,
except for the poor souls of the poor people who were working on fixing potholes.
Yeah, that we made, and that we didn't have proper protection protecting them, and we won't let them be immigrants to help us do our dirty work. And oh my God, I mean, yeah, then there's that ugliness on there. I mean, isn't it ironic? I mean, what I mean, it really is. And I guess they found the last body today. And I mean, it's just, but I at least want to give praise to the few simple things that did work that really could have kept it. What happened in China yesterday? A chunk of highway, broke away because of rain. And what they say, 35 killed? That just means that people just kept coming, not expecting that there was no road there, and just kept flowing into that. I mean, because that's what's going to happen, if there isn't a policeman there. Hey, yo, stop. I mean, I just think that those policemen that, whoever was listening to the Mayday signal, whoever put it out, I mean, they need to be honored someplace. That's all. I mean, that's,
they're going to be given a medal by the governor.
Well, good.
Fast enough to stop traffic.
Yeah, yeah. And they deserve it. And yeah, the bridge, we can't be perfectly safe, I guess, and if we try to, then can we afford it? And I don't.
My point.
No,
I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it again. Yeah. My point is that people are making decisions that eventually affect, in this case, 6 lives.
Yeah.
Whatever number of lives it is, one life too many, and the amount of the cost associated with replacing that entire bridge revolves around some group making a decision that they didn't need to protect the piers on that bridge because it was too expensive. These are the kinds of things that we need to address. We need to be talking about these things just like we're talking about automatic emergency braking. This is part of the big picture.
Yep.
All right, we're going to wrap up with one other little headline. This is from the Dispatch Central section, and that's on a lighter note, maybe a little bit. The moon buggy coming back. Michael, you included that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the moon buggy is going to be a design that will inspire us, not something that's sort of schlocky design like some of the things that I saw is coming out of there. I mean, I know from my standpoint, it affected that car, the lunar rover affected me greatly because I felt this car was designed for an environment where we had never driven before. They'd put something together, even though it sort of looked like a dune buggy, you know, a car on a frame with Volkswagen, just the wheels and driving along the dunes, like, you know, they were back in the 60s when they went to the moon. They were pretty popular, and I think it would be inspiring to have a vehicle on the moon that was, you know, one step further than that, at least one step further than that. And it's going to be driving around in driverless mode. When the astronauts go back to Earth, they're going to leave that vehicle there, and that vehicle is going to be driving around on its own, just like the Mars rover is doing now. I think there are a lot of opportunities to see what, especially in difficult terrain.
Yeah, and I think the part of the design of those things also is that it will have an interior environment such that it may be a short sleeve environment that's in there, as opposed to having all the life support systems on whatever the astronauts were wearing when they were outside, and so, you know, there may be, I mean, at least the current designs seem to have that, so that I guess it'll be at least a little bit more comfortable to ride in, as opposed to wearing those life support systems on your back, which is what those poor astronauts had to do every time they came out of the lunar lander. I mean, it was, I'm not sure. I guess they took those things off some of the time. I mean, that was how many years ago?
Well, the first one was 1969.
I was at Cape Canaveral for the launch of Apollo 11. So,
yeah.
What was I, -3 years old or something like that?
Yeah, you must have been at least.
Let's see, I'm 39, so whatever.
Well, the moon buggy was, the lunar rover was 1971, and
yeah, 71, yeah, because we didn't take one of those up there until then, you know.
That was Apollo mission 15.
Yeah, and I've forgotten where they strapped the darn thing. Did they? Where in the heck did they strap that darn thing? I have to look. I don't recall.
Yeah, I didn't.
You know, it is. You know, you could watch the live replays of those landers, especially on Apollo 11. And you're listening to the transmissions and the Capcom on that. You say, "Oh my!" I mean, we're breathing again down here. I mean, oh, I know. And they had what, abacuses, abacis, and slide rules making that happen. They had abacis and
good stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
And what they just recently did with Voyager. I mean, it's out there, you know,
Came
in
back to life,
interstellar
right?
space, and they reprogrammed it because a couple of the modules like burned out, and they were just getting gibberish. So they were able to move some code from one module to another, so they no longer get gibberish. I mean, you have to be a really good programmer in machine language to make that sucker happen. I mean, ooh, you can't run no back propagation neural net whatever to do AI thing. Those things.
And you talk about remote. How far away is Voyager?
What is it like? It takes a day. The transmission takes a day to get there, or something like. I mean, some ridiculous thing.
Well,
I know
you
we
guys,
don't.
we've got,
I know
we've got the summit coming up, and we're going to get to see you, Michael.
Yeah, I've got my ticket paid for and my hotel reserved, and yeah, I'm on my way. Car rented, and
You're renting a car. You're not going to use Uber or Lyft. Ooh, you're not going to get a ride. You're going to drive yourself.
I thought I mentioned this to you, that I have never ever used Uber or Lyft or any of those, but I happen to have a need to drive beyond Princeton.
Ooh.
So I don't think I'm going to be taking Ubers or Lyfts or taxis to Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Now wait a minute. We have trains in New Jersey, and you know, you come from Europe.
They don't go to Scranton, Pennsylvania. You know, and there was a time when I used to hitchhike from Princeton up to Somerville, and standing room only on a Mart's bus that came out of New York and ended up in Scranton. But those buses don't even run anymore. So no, car rental is you know what I need to do.
You hitchhike? I hitchhiked. Oh, I can recall hitchhiking in shorts like this with a sport coat on, with a little sign saying, "Please pick me up." That's needing a ride, baby. That's needing a ride. Why don't people do that anymore?
I know why they're doing it. I know why they don't do it anymore. But yes, I hitchhiked a lot. Yes. Yeah.
Well, there's.
And
I didn't have a car. I didn't own a car. Where are you going to get a ride? Hey, come on, you know, little sign so that they know whether or not they're going in my direction. I mean, they didn't even have an app. My app was a sign.
Hitchhiking app.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking for.
The summit is going to be terrific. I mean, the agenda is really taking shape right now.
Yeah,
Michael.
Yeah,
the agenda. Yeah, it's going to be a great summit. Terrific summit.
Yeah, the agenda is taking shape, and more importantly, I think essentially all the people, or most of the people that are coming to discuss in a humane and thoughtful way these challenges that we have. Again, if all this stuff was easy, it would have been done a long time ago. This is still hard, and we need to come together and see how we can help it along. And again, it to me, I am so pleased by the NHTSA announcement, because this is maybe the biggest value capture opportunity associated with any of this automation technology when you really look at it, and hopefully everybody will appreciate it and take it a little bit farther and capture some more value. I mean, that's why why the investment has been made. It hasn't been made, hey, look at my technology.
The end of May in Princeton, smartdrivingcars.com is the place to go for more info. Michael, thank you once again for a great discussion. The website is michaellsenna.com.
Thank you, Fred.
You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com. Also on Spotify, TuneIn, wherever you turn to for podcasts, Amazon, and SoundCloud, wherever you turn to. You can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alan Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching, and please continue to stay safe.
And Fred, you just had a 5-part series on this, right?
They can find the 5-part series on the book, The Real Case for Driverless Mobility. Find that at techstination.com as well.
Wow. Our Madison Avenue works, maybe.